One of the most active NHL teams so far this offseason has easily been the Detroit Red Wings, especially in free agency when Steve Yzerman handed out over a combined $75 million across his various different signings. In the most recent Ask Me Anything video, I was asked if I thought the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings can be legit playoff threats this upcoming season after all the additions they've made so far this offseason. So instead of just answering that question in about a minute to a minute and a half, I figured I would actually make separate videos on both the Red Wings and the Ottawa Senators and kind of preview these teams heading into the upcoming season because of all the changes that have been made. We're going to be starting off with the Red Wings, and before we start previewing them heading into the upcoming season, let's first take a look at how they fared this past season, because although there was some improvement and there was definitely big bright spots thanks to rookies like Raymond and Seider, they were still far from being playoff contenders. They finished the season with a record of 32, 40, and 10, good for 74 points, just 1 point ahead of the Ottawa Senators, who finished 7th in the Atlantic. They scored an average of 2.77 goals a game, which was 25th in the league, and they allowed 3.78 goals against per game on average. The only team that allowed more per game on average was the Montreal Canadiens, who of course had the worst record in the league. The special teams were also terrible, just a 16.3 power play percentage and a league worst 73.8 penalty kill percentage. They were led in scoring by Larkin, Bertuzzi, and Raymond, and I think it's a safe bet to say that'll likely be the top 3 in scoring on the team next season as well. Just by looking at these stats, I think you guys know what I mean by when I said Detroit was still very far from being legit playoff contenders this past season, but the bright spots of Raymond and Seider really kind of masked just how bad the team actually was. That's enough on this past season though. Let's now look forward and take a look at the additions and subtractions that Steve Yzerman has made to the Red Wings so far this offseason. First, let's take a look at the subtractions. Sam Gagner, Thomas Greiss, Mitchell Stevens, Mark Stahl, and Danny DeKeyser. Those are all the notable subtractions that spent a good chunk of time this past season on the Red Wings, and there's really nobody on that list of consequence. I think Mark Stahl is still a fine number 6-7 defenseman. Sam Gagner is a decent fourth line forward who can play a little bit of special teams, but I honestly think a lot of that is going to be addition by subtraction. They're not going to miss Danny DeKeyser. They're definitely not going to miss Thomas Greiss, especially considering they upgraded in his position. Speaking of upgrading in his position, that was Steve Yzerman's first real big add of the offseason when he traded for Ville Husso's rights and then signed him to a 3-year extension. And then along with Ville Husso, Steve Yzerman made additions like David Perron, Andrew Kopp, Ben Sherratt, Dominic Kubalik, Oli Mata, and Mark Pysyk. That entire list of additions, I guess with the exception of Mark Pysyk and depending on how you feel about Ben Sherratt, but those are 6 quality NHL players that are really going to improve the Red Wings in their own different ways. Andrew Kopp, for example, gonna slot in at that second line center position, a position of need for the Red Wings for years now. Ben Sherratt and Oli Mata, Detroit was very weak on the left side. They needed 2 left shot defensemen to play in the top 4 alongside Seider and Hronek. They got that with those 2. Ville Husso, they needed a goaltender to come in, be a tandem guy with Alex Nedeljkovic, take some of the pressure off of Nedeljkovic. You got that with Ville Husso. The only real lethal right shot forward that the Red Wings had who was actually a threat to shoot on the power play was Lucas Raymond. Now you have a guy like David Perron, and then also power play specialist Dominic Kubalik, who's most likely going to play on that second power play unit but actually provide a threat on that second unit. Kubalik is a guy who scored more than 60 goals throughout his first 3 NHL seasons, and Detroit got him for just $2.5 million. In Steve Yzerman's first couple of off seasons as Red Wings GM, he made little smart signings, signing guys to 1-2-year deals, guys that he's going to be able to flip at upcoming trade deadlines and get draft picks, acquire more future assets. This is the first time he's actually went into a free agency as Red Wings GM and acquired players that are actually going to move the needle and really improve this team, and he didn't just do it with one player, he did it with multiple players. So those were the additions and subtractions. Now let's talk about projected lineups for the upcoming season. First, we'll look at the projected forward lines, and these are my projected lines. Obviously, yours could be a little bit different, but the first line, as long as Bertuzzi is still a Red Wing come opening night, I think you keep them together. Bertuzzi, Larkin, Raymond, they played so well together this past season, and now that you actually have some depth behind those guys, I don't see a reason to break them up. And then for the second line, and this is where the forward group really starts to get a new look, you have Jacob Vrana, who obviously missed a big chunk of this past season with the shoulder injury he sustained in training camp. So I've got Vrana playing with the newcomers, Andrew Kopp and David Perron. Now, is that one of the best second lines in the league? Definitely not, but I would say at the very least, it's an average NHL second line, which is a huge upgrade from this past season and seasons past. And when you add players like Andrew Kopp and David Perron, who are going to be playing in your top 6, it then bumps players down who are playing in the top 6 from this past season and just makes the team look so much deeper. I love the look of this third line with Dominic Kubalik and Pius Suter. You're reuniting those two who were teammates in Pius Suter's rookie season in Chicago. I have them playing with Philip Zadina. Zadina, I think, is is a big wild card for this forward group. Can he finally take that big leap that everyone has been expecting for a couple of seasons now, maybe double his goal total from this past season where he had 10, become a 20 goal scorer? And then you've got the fourth line where I really feel like you can go a lot of different ways with it. I got Rasmussen centering Ernie and Sundqvist, but I also wouldn't be opposed to Rasmussen sliding to the wing where he actually usually performs better, and then you have Joe Veleno centering that fourth line. Giovanni Smith is also a guy who I think is very capable of taking a roster spot from one of Sundqvist or Ernie, and then you have Jonathan Berggren, who I think is a big wild card. A second round pick by the Red Wings in 2018, has yet to make his NHL debut, but he was one of the better forwards in the entire AHL this past season. I believe he finished with like 65 plus points. I really think he's going to be gunning for a spot, and if he plays so well in training camp and preseason that the Red Wings just can't keep him off the team, then it'll definitely shake things up a little bit. And then you also still have Robbie Fabry. I have him in red there because he's on the LTIR. He's not going to be starting the season healthy, but when he comes back, that gives you a left side of Bertuzzi, Vrana, Kubalik, and Fabry. That is very deep. So those are my projected forward lines for the upcoming season. Let's now shift our focus to the back end, which is where Detroit really needed to improve the most. Like we talked about at the beginning of the video, the only team that allowed more goals per game was the Montreal Canadiens. Detroit had a league worst penalty kill percentage as well. Definitely still a lot of work to do, but it is shaping up and looking a lot better. So I got Ben Sherratt on the top pairing with Moritz Seider. I definitely think that's how it's going to look on opening night. Say what you want about Ben Sherratt, he's probably not near as good as a lot of NHL GMs think he is, but he's also probably not near as bad as the analytical community thinks he is. I feel like there's a happy medium in there somewhere, but rest assured, he is going to be an upgrade over Danny DeKeyser, and that's just a fact. And then on that second pairing, I have Olli Maatta playing with Filip Hronek. Really like the look of that pairing. I think Olli Maatta is exactly the kind of partner that Filip Hronek needs. Olli Maatta is basically not going to give you anything offensively, but he's very stout and steady defensively. And then Hronek, on the other hand, he's basically the polar opposite. He'll put up the points, but he doesn't give you much defensively whatsoever. So hopefully Olli Maatta and how good he is defensively can kind of mask Filip Hronek's defensive deficiencies and the mistakes he makes in his own end. And then for the third pairing, similar to what I said about the fourth line, you can go a lot of different ways with this. I have Oesterle with Gustav Lindstrom. I'm sure we'll see Mark Pysyk slot in there pretty often. Jake Wallman as well, when he's healthy, should be in the lineup here and there, but he's actually not going to be starting the season healthy. He's going to be on the IR. And then, similar to what I said about Jonathan Berggren, Detroit has a huge wild card on the back end, and that is Simon Edvinsson, their 2021 first round pick. I think he's going to get every opportunity in the world to make this team on the left side. You really only have to beat out Jordan Oesterle if you're Simon Edvinsson. If he can't do that, then yeah, he probably should spend a year in the American Hockey League to further develop his game, but I would not be surprised at all to see him in the opening night lineup. I just have him as an extra for now because I don't like to put that pressure on prospects. I like to keep my expectations in check because I don't think we should all be expecting Edvinsson to come in and do what Seider did in his rookie season. So that's it for the defense, and then obviously in net it's going to be the tandem of Ville Husso and Alex Nedeljkovic, which I think is probably in the top half of goaltending tandems in the league. I am actually really curious to see though who Detroit is going to start on opening night between Nedeljkovic and Husso. I really feel like it's probably just going to come down to who has the better training camp in preseason, but more likely than not they're both going to play around the same amount of games this year. So that's it for lineup projections. Now let's talk about my expectations for this team heading into the upcoming season. First, I'll just get this out of the way. Do I expect the Red Wings to make the playoffs in 2023? No, I don't. I'm not predicting them to make the playoffs even with all the changes that they've made. However, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. Like, say at the beginning of last season, I would have said there's realistically no chance that Detroit makes the playoffs. This year, I don't feel that way. Like, I do think this team is capable of competing for a playoff spot down the stretch. I fully expect them to increase their season-ending point total by like 15 to 20 points. I would say my expectation is for them to finish in between 90 and 95. So they're definitely getting there. They're getting better, but again, I like to keep my expectations in check because when you have really high expectations for pretty much anything in life, you're just going to leave yourself disappointed more often than not. But again, I do think it's possible. All the additions that Steve Yzerman made, all the holes that he filled, all the areas of the team that needed improvement that he improved upon, and then also you have to factor in guys like Seider and Raymond getting 1 year better, having a full season of Jacob Vrana healthy, hopefully, fingers crossed, instead of just a quarter of the season as well. Things are definitely looking up. I think it's a really great time to be a Red Wings fan. I think we're in for a very, very fun season. Really, in the end, what I hope for is to be able to watch, 75-ish meaningful games and not have Detroit completely out of the playoff race by Christmas, which is kind of what us Red Red Wings fans have gotten used to over the past couple seasons. But that is going to wrap up today's video, looking at all the moves the Red Wings have made this offseason, projecting the lineups, and kind of previewing the team heading into the upcoming season. Like I said at the beginning, I will be doing a video like this on the Ottawa Senators in the near future, so you can keep an eye out on that. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this where we take a look at one specific team, be sure to leave this video a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.